Look, just before I commence the meeting, welcome to you all. Could I just ask mobile devices be turned off or put on silent, please? And we'll commence the meeting. Mr. Bird, please.
All council meetings are filmed with both video and audio being recorded. Video is focused on a specific area, however audio from the entire room is captured. By speaking during question time or at any time during the meeting, you consent to your voice and any of your comments you make being recorded. In common with all narrative during council meetings, verbal responses to congratulations, obituaries and question time will not be recorded in the written minutes. The reasoning behind recording council meetings is of course to hold us more accountable and improve transparency of council's decision making to our community. The full meeting is being streamed live on council's YouTube channel, which is Alpine Shire Council, and will also be available on the YouTube channel shortly after this meeting.
Thank you. Would you stand for the acknowledgement of traditional custodians?
The Alpine Shire Council acknowledges the traditional owners of the land we are now on. We also acknowledge those people who have contributed to the rich fabric of our community and strive to make wise decisions that will improve the quality of life for all.
Thank you. Item 3, confirmation of minutes, Ordinary Council Meeting M2, 6th of March 2018. Councillor Pearce, seconder. Councillor Roper, thank you. Any discussion? All in favour? Carried. Apologies, there are nil. Obituaries and congratulations from my left. Councillor Roper.
Left or right?
That's Forsyth.
My left, Councillor Forsyth. Look a bit the same.
Yeah, number 9.
Thank you. Councillor Pearce. Sarah?
No.
Councillor Keeble? No. Councillor Roper? No. Councillor Knapstall?
Ray Owens from the Elk, he was in the driver program and he was a mentor in that. From Bright, he passed away recently with a heart attack, so condolences to his family, and we respect and are grateful for what he partook in the program. And congratulations to the Art Gallery on its exhibition that's currently ongoing. Beautiful works there. I sort of recommend everybody to go and have a look. It's a really good asset to the town.
Absolutely. I did the opening for that, and could I recommend that, gentlemen, if you take your wives, please leave your MasterCard at home, because it cost me money. Again. Anyway, a beautiful painting. Just on my behalf, Ron Little, who was from Myrtleford, but who was actually a Bright man from the 1940s. He played his grand final with the Bright Footy Club in the early 1940s. He had, on his passing, he had his children. He had 28 grandchildren and a further 52 great-grandchildren and one great-great-grandchild. He was employed in Bright by the Hargraves family as a timber thinner, and then he moved to Myrtleford, and in 2013 was presented with the Alpine Shire's Lifetime Achievement Award for his work in the community. So sadly, Ron passed away with a lot of his family around him, and he was a great man and will be certainly lost. That is all. If there's no further, we'll go on. Sorry.
Mr. Mayor, if I may, I just want to mention 3 congratulations. 3 congratulations for our Shire. in particular businesses of our shire, and first of all the hops garden down there at Eurobin. I actually did work down there, so I've got a conflict of interest, which was a nice one. There was 170 people at the induction there prior to commencing the harvest of the crop down there. It's just a great business for our district. And another one, I've been frequenting Gumtree Pies, and I haven't seen from
Stand up, your tummy.
yeah, hang on. Just to see good businesses flourishing. It's going well down there with crowds coming out of the front door, 200 or 300 people. So we're alive and well. And I just want to mention Greater Days as well for the contribution to a lot of people that require medical whatever through the state. Well done to that as well. Brighter Days. Thanks, John. Thank you, Ron.
Thank you. Item 6, declarations by councillors of conflict of interest. There are none. Public questions, questions on notice, and I acknowledge that Mr Barnes is present in the chamber. Thank you, Mr Barnes. And we will proceed with your question, sir. And if you're happy for me, I'll just read it out as you have written it. Dear Mayor and Councillors, in the Alpine Observer of March 15, 2018, there were several statements made about the economic benefit of tourists to the Alpine Shire. The opening paragraph stated that $42 million was injected into the Alpine Shire from events. Later in the article, Ms Burridge was quoted as saying that tourism injects $202 million per annum into the Alpine Shire economy. The questions are, 4 of them, how much of this $202 million is received directly by the Alpine Shire Council, and how much of this $202 million is received indirectly by the Alpine Shire Council? How much of this money obtained from tourists is expended by the Alpine Shire for the benefit of tourists, and how much of this money obtained from tourists is expended by the Alpine Shire for the benefit of ratepayers? We won't worry, that's not part of the question. You are here. I think Mr Jeremy has a reply for you there, sir.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. The annual benefit of tourism to the economy of Alpine Shire has been estimated to be $202 million. This is based on a calculation of the number of tourists who visit the Alpine Shire in a year, the average number of nights that they stay in Alpine Shire, and the average amount of money that they spend per day that they are here in the Alpine Shire. Council only receives income directly from tourists where they purchase a service that Council provides. For example, if they stay in the Myrtleford Holiday Park, which Council operates, or if they visit one of the swimming pools which Council operates. This income represents a very small proportion of the tourist spend in Alpine Shire. The vast majority of tourism spend is on accommodation services, food and beverage and retail, from which Council receives no direct benefit. Council does not indirectly benefit from any of the $202 million tourism spend in the economy. Council does not differentiate between the income received from residents and tourists at our facilities and does not allocate this income to specific items of expenditure.
Thank you. Mr Barnes, are you satisfied with that reply, or would you?
Yes, I'm satisfied with the reply. It's largely as I expected. I just want to confirm that it was in fact the case that the Shire itself is getting very little from tourists. I just wanted to establish that before I may seek further information. I do want to ask questions based on a belief.
Certainly, and we would be happy to accommodate you if you want to have a conversation with the CEO or Mr Jeremy directly. That might assist you to fine-tune some of that information that you require.
Thanks very much, Mr Mayor.
Are there questions from the floor? The questions will be limited to 2 questions per person. Questions from the floor? Trish, could you just, you know the drill, so to speak?
Trish Cross from Mount Beauty, part of the Upper Kiewa Valley Community Association. I've got two questions in relation to an item on the agenda of the projected budget surplus of 4.8 million that you're planning for this year. Question one is, what future projects are planned for which this surplus is going to be put towards? Now, I know that's something you probably can't answer right now, but it would be nice to know, is there some plan in place why have we got such a huge surplus? So there must be something that you're holding it back for. That's the first question. And the next one, noting that regular positions vacant in the local newspapers, and there's been quite a few recently, since this year anyhow, point 6 of the reasons for the projected surplus talks about a flat staffing profile with no increases and wage freezes. Now my question is, I deal with quite a few of the staff here at Alpine Shire, and I know they work incredibly hard. I want to know is, why can't some part of this surplus be put towards an increase in staffing to ease the huge workload that current staff, who as I said are doing a wonderful job, are responsible for? It just seems to be the staff here and the other ones that I deal with on email or on the phone just seem to be overloaded with a huge amount of work, and I'm wondering why we can't fill those positions if they're vacant, or why can't some of that surplus be directed towards those positions?
Mr. Mayor, if I could maybe ask, if I may, could I direct the first question to Ms. Corker in relation to the surplus, to explain what the surplus is versus cash?
So the $4.8 million surplus is actually largely an accounting function, and it is generated by the way that assets are depreciated across the life cycle of an asset.
Right.
So a lot of that surplus is actually forward appreciated for provisioning our future maintenance and renewal requirements. So if you see in the budget, we actually have a very large capital expenditure. We've had a very large capital expenditure for the last 2 years, and again for next year in the budget of $11 million. And we actually have to forward appreciate how much we're going to need to spend to renew and maintain those assets as they go forward. You can't just build them and then leave them. You need to spend a certain amount of money. So that's what a large proportion of that actual budget surplus is for. In terms of a cash surplus, we're actually projecting a deficit of $700,000 this year at actual cash.
Mm-hmm.
Does that make sense?
So the surplus is planned for deficits within
so
projects that are currently underway.
So over the next few years in our long-term financial plan, we recognise that we cannot continue to spend the amount of money we're currently spending on capital investment, because the things we are currently building will need to be maintaining, and our actual cash base is going to be reducing over time, and we're going to be spending a large proportion of our income and a large proportion of our cash in maintaining our current assets, which means we're actually going to be building a lot less as well. So although it looks big at the moment, it does even out over time, and you really do need to look at the projections over the 10 years as opposed to just in a single year. But I recognise it does look confusing. It looks like we have a lot of money when you see the $4.8 million.
But it's a bit disappointing that, in fact, it's going to limit the future projects, really, isn't it?
Well, we'll just need to continue to be prudent in what we decide to do in terms of as a council, prudent in what we decide to do, and choose the projects that are the best benefit for the community.
Okay. Thanks, Natalie.
And with the
staffing.
I was only going to comment on the actual vacancy level. The vacancy level is actually reducing at the moment. You're right. We have advertised a lot of positions recently. We're working to fill our current vacancies within council. If the difference, we're closing the gap at the moment. So although at the moment there is a vacancy level that has contributed to that surplus, and that surplus would be money that we haven't spent, because we had it in our budget last year for staff, but we haven't spent it this year. So it has contributed to some of that surplus. It's actually reducing at the moment because we had some long-term vacancies that we've now filled. Although the nature of the beast is that you do get more vacancies and you fill them. I think that's reducing now, coming close together as well.
Okay.
So in relation to the second part of the question, I guess it's important for us all to recognise the financial position that the council was in 4 years ago, and the difficult decisions that were
I
made
accept that,
by council,
Yeah.
and there were people in there which they were on temporary. The funding for a lot of those roles were temporary, but they were put on a permanent contract. So year on year, I couldn't. My predecessor would be able to quote how many
Yes, I
years
know.
the employee budget hadn't been met,
Yeah.
and year on year it continued to grow and to grow. So what happened over that time was even during the global financial crisis, council employees at that time were getting a 4% increase, 5%, and then 6%, while other people across the world were losing their jobs. So what happened over time was there's a disparity between effectively what private sector was paying and what we're paying at council. And so I'm generalising here across the roles. And so the wage freeze, which was negotiated between management and employees last year. So last year? 2 years ago,
Probably the year
2016.
before, I
Wow,
think.
time flies, you're having fun. So that was, the wage freeze was in return for job security. So again,
Right.
when you think about what's happening across local government across Victoria, and with rate capping introduced a few years ago, there's no other council across the state that can offer job security, which Alpine Shire Council offers to its employees. And I also agree our staff work really, really hard, and we're very conscious around how we prioritise and allocate our resources. And we'll continue to do that, and it's really important we continue to be very mindful about how we allocate our resources and maintain a strong financial position so we can continue to invest in our communities and deliver projects that our communities want. So I think about the pipeline, which Mr. Jeremy could, I think the number's about 300 projects in that pipeline going forward. So it's not as if there's a shortage of aspirations or needs from the community. So these are some of the difficult decisions that our council make.
And as an aside on the staffing issue, you've said Alpine Shire guarantees permanency of the roles that are people who are currently employed here. Is there a timeline to that?
Yeah, so that's a good question.
Yeah.
So it aligns with the enterprise agreement, which sunsets at 30th of June 2020. Okay.
Yeah.
So there's a 3-year wage freeze, which will conclude at 30th of June 2019, in return for a 4-year job security. And for it guarantees the roles, which, with the exception of there's about 5 excluded positions there outside of that, but amongst the rest, the 150 odd are job security.
And those 5 positions, are they contract positions, like people on contracts?
They're temporary positions.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Thank you, Trish. Further questions from the floor, Madam? Sally, is it?
Sorry, can I?
Sorry.
Can I ask, if I may? Excuse me. Councillor Roby just pointed out an important point of the enterprise agreement. So the 4th year, the wages will increase in line with CPI or the wage price index, whichever is greater of the two. So that's for the 4th year between.
Red light's on. You're right.
My name's Sally Peat. I've lived in Bright for 40 years now. One of my main, very big interests and passions is what's happening at Mount Buffalo. And I'd like you to correct me if anything that I say is wrong, please. I'm under the understanding, and so a lot of the community, that current tender is actually being run by council. Is that correct?
Yes, the tender's been put out by Alpine Shire Council. Alpine Shire Council is managing the project on behalf of the task force, and we are the entity which has sought tenders for the consultancy services, yes.
Okay, so where does the advisory group fit into this program?
The advisory group? So the Mount Buffalo Destination Advisory Group. So there's a task force which is leading this project, which is led by Parliamentary Secretary Danielle Green.
Yes.
And on that task force sits Regional Development Victoria, Parks Victoria, Department of Environment, Land, Water and Planning, the chair of the Mount Buffalo Destination Advisory Group, the chair of the Community Action for Chalet, that's in the room, council sits on there, the Tourism North East is represented on there, and also the Tangarang people as well.
So these people ultimately answer to you guys, to the Shire?
No.
No, we are a member of the task force, and we are the entity which will engage with that contractor to undertake the consultancy work, and the consultant will report to the task force.
Okay, so then who is actually making the final decision as to what is going to happen to our mountain?
The task force.
The task force. So what's their charter and who do they answer to?
No, the government will make the final decision.
They will, if we think about who's represented on that committee there, on that task force, there's a number of members there which from the state government, so I suspect that the state government will ultimately make the decision.
And who would be? They would be assessing any conflicts of interest, would they?
Any conflicts of interest are considered on a case-by-case basis.
Okay, all right then.
Are you heading? I'm unclear of.
No. I'm just not just myself, but the community in Bright have suddenly woken up and realised that there's a lot happening, as is in view here, to their mountain, to their chalet, and are really concerned that it's not driven by the accountants and an economic focus more than historical focus and a focus of sustainability and environment within the national park. That's the great concern.
Yeah, so I guess there's a broad range of factors which need to be considered.
Yeah, okay, and hopefully, being our Shire, you'll be looking at that in great detail.
So we look at, as we do with all our decisions, we look across the spectrum of those things which need to be considered. I think what I would be encouraging, or which I'd hope would encourage the community, is the broad representation that sits on that task force. There's a broad range of representatives there which have different interests, and so what I think is really beneficial about this process is actually they're all at the table together. They're all supportive of what's been put forward today and supportive of the process, and are committed to working together.
Good. Okay. Well, hopefully you can do the best you can for us. All right. Thank you.
Ms. P, I sit on that committee, and I'm confident that we are doing the best that we can to advocate for the best for the mountain. And one of the things that I personally advocate for is the bipartisanship between both parties of government, that they are all properly informed as to what is occurring in this process.
We look at all sorts of decisions that are made at government level, and not always ones that we think are sustainable. I think the uniqueness of Mount Buffalo, the historical uniqueness, the environmental uniqueness, it is an amazing place that deserves a hugely sensitive attitude.
We are all in the same boat.
Good.
In relation to that, I can assure you.
Good.
We are
Good.
all in the same
Good.
boat in relation to that. Yep.
David Jacobson, Chair of Community Action for the Chalet.
Well, just Mr. Jacobson, if you could just yes.
Yes, David Jacobson, Chair of Community Action for the Chalet. I'm Paddy's husband, I believe you know. Can I just make the offer to you? Contact me. I'll give you the contact details. Let's have a chat and let me bring you up to speed. All right? We've been working very hard for 2.5 years. Nothing's happened in a hurry.
Oh, no, I've been in the background.
Okay.
Yeah, thank you.
Leave it at that. Thank you.
Yvonne Huggins from Bright. I've been here for 30 years.
Welcome.
And I'm the public dump point lady. You've all heard about me quite often, I'm sure. It wasn't until about 2 years ago my husband and I come back from being up in Queensland, where we spent our money in Queensland rather than spending overseas. And we have a big fifth wheeler and got to Bright. We had to come home in a hurry due to an aunt of mine going through cancer and wasn't expected to live long, and very close aunt, and we rushed home and didn't have a chance to empty our tank and it has 80 litres holding tank of black water. I won't explain to you what black water is, I'm sure
Yep.
you all know. And I came to the one and only caravan park that I was told would accept our black water. I went there and I was told, no, this is in October, no, you can't come here. And I said, why? They said, because we're busy, come back in 2
Yep.
weeks' time.
Okay, Ms Huggins, so we've been briefed on this. I don't mean to be rude to cut you short or anything.
Okay,
But
all
can
right.
you just cut your question, please?
My problem is there is no caravan park in Bright or the surrounding distance of the 12 that will accept a large holding tank. All the caravan parks say, yes, we will accept them. There is only 4 that are on the sewer. We put a chemical in our tank, and a lot of cassettes have a chemical in them, and they should not be emptied into a what do you call
Septic.
it? Septic, because of what's
Yes.
in there, what its job does. And to empty a large quantity into something like that would be a problem. Plus, the dump points in the caravan parks are not suitable for our rig, and a lot of rigs that have a holding tank, and that's my problem.
Okay, thank
It
you.
will continue to be a problem. I was watching the traffic coming back through between Bright and Myrtleford yesterday. There were 350 vehicles heading out of Bright, and a lot of those were dirty vehicles. My natural assume is that there have been people that have been doing free camping. People who are not doing free camping have clean vehicles.
Okay.
The ones
So
yes.
can I just ask you, what is your question then?
My question is, when will we have a public dump point in Bright, accessible for big rigs, big holding tanks, cassettes, anybody else that
So
needs
this
to get...
item is on the agenda tonight, and hopefully we can address some of that
Okay, thank you very
concern
much.
tonight.
I'm sorry to be a pain, but
That's
I'm
all
really
right.
good at it. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms Huggins. Are there further questions from the floor, sir?
For the record, my name's Ray Dyer and I live at Ovens. I've spoke about this a couple of times, Mr Mayor, about the July meeting, before and during the meeting, what went on with yourself and Mayor Forsyth. And I said to you then that I believe it's straight out dictatorship. We've spoken about it a couple of times, you said straight out no.
So what is
the
your
photograph,
question, sir?
the photographs that I had that I was going to show and bring up a council meeting in a July meeting was, in December of 2015, I spoke about the toilet block at the Howard Park, or Centenary Park, where the slide is, that it was leaking water.
Yes.
It's still leaking water today. What have you done about it?
I understand we have repaired it. It may have sprung another leak.
No, it has not.
Very good.
It has not
Thank
been
you. Now,
repaired,
what's
Mr.
your
Mayor.
question? We have it. We will address that.
That's
So-
over 3 years.
Yes. Okay. Your next question.
My next question is, 7 weeks ago, I had an electric bike on the side of the road at Great Alpine Road and Happy Valley intersection. It was taken by the Alpine Shire, and the local ranger said that he had permission from the local police. I spoke to the local police and they said they never gave them permission at all, and I spoke to Natalie Cook about it. Also, I never received any paperwork on that bike. When the bike was taken, it should have been handed to me. There was a fella in the park ready to talk to the person that took the bike, and he didn't stay around. He jumped in his vehicle and headed back to Bright. Now, I believe that bike has already been disposed of. No paperwork, no identification on the vehicle, Alpine Shire or anything else. I spoke to the local sergeant and said I believe I should put in a report of it being stolen.
Have
Two
you?
views. No, I have not. But I want to talk to the CEO about this issue well and truly, and a few others.
Well, there is an issue, sir, with your vehicles being parked on the side of the road as they are. The police have obviously taken notice of that for policing reasons. There have been contradictions under our local law, and I believe our bylaws officer have, in all circumstances, acted within the law.
No, he has not. When he has
Well, you
no
can take that up with someone
identification,
else,
when he
sir.
does not put paperwork in and everything else, the
Well,
bike
I'm
was
unsure of
stolen.
that. I don't know whether this paperwork has been submitted.
No, it has not. I was told by Natalie that it was in the mail, and I've never received anything yet.
Mr. Dome, my understanding is that the paperwork has been posted to your postal address.
Postal address 167 Post Office Box 13, Port Bunga. I've never received it. Plus, we have the issue of the vehicle not being identified as Alpine Shire. Plus, we have the issue of the police saying one thing and the ranger saying another.
Well, take that up with the police, sir.
I have already.
Good.
And it'll go higher.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Good night. Are there any further questions from the floor? Thank you. Move on. Item 8.1.1, contracts approved by the Chief Executive Officer as listed.
So moved.
Councillor Forsyth. Seconded. Councillor Nicholas. Any comments? All in favour? Carried. Okay. Item 8.2.1, contract consultancy services for Mount Buffalo business case assessment and activation. Mr. Jeremy.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This report relates to the award of a contract...
Just a moment, Mr. Jeremy. You just pause for a second, please. Thank you. Thank you. I just had to check a point of order there. Continue.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This report relates to the award of a contract for the provision of consultancy services for the Mount Buffalo Business Case Assessment and Activation Project. In December 2017, Parliamentary Secretary for Tourism, Major Events and Regional Victoria, MP Danielle Green, announced that the Victorian Government would provide Alpine Shire Council with $200,000 for the Mount Buffalo Business Case Assessment and Activation Project. The project will determine the feasibility of concepts identified by the Mount Buffalo Destination Advisory Group and work with commercial partners to realise feasible concepts. Tenders for the consultancy services opened on 19th of January, closed on 16th of February. The request for tender comprised 3 separable components. Component A was project management and communications, Component B, concept feasibility, and Component C, project activation. The tender documents were downloaded by 54 prospective tenderers. 5 conforming tenders were received, which included all 3 components of the project, and 1 conforming tender was received, which was for Component A of the project only. The tender evaluation process was led by Council's Chief Executive Officer and Director Assets, with participation from members of the Mount Buffalo Activation Task Force. Following an initial assessment of the offers, 3 tenders were shortlisted. The shortlisted tenderers participated in a tender clarification interview. Following the tender interviews and reference checks, it was determined that the tender from PricewaterhouseCoopers best met the selection criteria. The budget for the Mount Buffalo Business Case Activation and Assessment Project is $270,000, comprising $200,000 from Regional Development Victoria's Regional Tourism Infrastructure Fund and $70,000 from Parks Victoria. There is no financial contribution to the project from Council. Alpine Shire Council's executive team is managing the delivery of the project on behalf of the Mount Buffalo Activation Task Force.
So moved.
Councillor Roper, second it.
I'll second it.
Councillor Nicholas. Councillor Roper.
I think this process is reasonably self-explanatory, and the recommendation the Council award the contract for the amount advised to Pricewaterhouse is self-explanatory.
Thank you, Councillor Nicholas.
I've got a question, even though I seconded. Does Alpine Shire Council need to get approval from any other agency, example Regional Development Victoria, as we are managing the project on behalf of another organisation?
Mr. Bird.
So the members of the task force participated fully in the assessment of the tenders. They've all had a copy of the tender assessment evaluation recommendation report, and we've received their confirmation that they're happy with the recommendation as it stands.
Thank you, and I concur with Councillor Roper. It's pretty straightforward.
Any further discussion? Take it to the vote. All those in favour? Carried. Item 8.2.2, provision of a public dump point in Bright. Mr. Jeremy, that's yours.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The purpose of this report is to inform Council and to respond to a petition in support of the provision of a public dump point in Bright. A petition in support of the provision of a public dump point in Bright was tabled at the March 2018 Ordinary Council meeting. The petition contained 2,058 signatures collected between September 2015 and early 2018 and states, Bright in North East Victoria is looking for your support to establish a public dump point that can be used by motorhomers and caravanners visiting the area. There are no dump points in the area suitable for large RVs in any of the caravan parks. Free camping. Council is supportive of free camping within designated...
So moved. Recommendation as stated on the board.
Councillor Roper. Seconder?
I'll second it.
Councillor Epstein. Councillor Roper?
We've heard from Ms Huggins this evening in relation to her situation. I can understand, we've all been in contact with said person, or most of us have anyway. I'm surprised if she hasn't contacted everyone. And looking, there is a facility at Myrtleford. There is possibility to provide service elsewhere in the Shire also. People either coming to the upper northeast and the Ovens Valley either go, well, unless they're coming back over the hill again, travel past Myrtleford mostly. So I'm pretty happy with the way where we're at as far as, and Council will continue to look at the issue as we move forward.
Thank you. Councillor Napstein.
I've learnt more about RVs and dump points and caravans and everything than I ever thought I'd learn, but having done the research on this, yes, and to broaden out and look at the needs in the Alpine Shire, it's the Ovens Valley and the Kiewa Valley, so we're looking at the question more broadly. So perhaps not in Bright, but I think certainly the recommendations that are made by the officers here makes total sense, and it will service those needs that you've pointed out. Thank you.
Is there further comment?
Just some questions, Mr. Mayor. I'm just asking, does Myrtleford facilitate for large RVs?
So my understanding at the moment is that Myrtleford can accommodate large RVs, but at the moment it doesn't meet the best practice in terms of the dimensions to allow large RVs to pull up alongside. So what we'd be recommending as part of the report here is that we do some work within Myrtleford to meet that best standard or best industry practice for accommodating large RVs.
And further to that, will it's up for new management Myrtleford Park at the moment. Would they carry on, or would that be part of the deal to take it on?
So in the event that the caravan park was leased, we've had discussions with potential lessees, and they have agreed to a condition of their lease being that we continue to provide that service. So that's one potential outcome. Another potential outcome is we continue to operate the park, in which case we will continue to provide that free service and provide that service.
Sorry, I didn't pick up. And it does facilitate to large RVs?
Yes.
Councillor Roper. Forsyth. Oh God.
Yeah. You want to give me some hair? Just one thing, and I'll take up one of your points that you made tonight, and that was that you were turned away in October when you came back at some point. And I'm just looking, if you go to page further down, Will, please, where you've got the dump points in the Alpine Shire. There we are. Okay, so currently there are 3 guests and public dump points within Bright. Now I'm not sure whether none of those will cater for yours or one of them will cater, but the point about being turned away, I would like maybe from a council point of view that all of these people that do say that they are open to the public as well are put on notice that they do not turn people away. All right, and I'm not sure whether we can, whether through the officers, or we can make a recommendation, especially to the private parks, but in the case of the leased park here, we should be able to at least tell them that they cannot or should not be turning people away, if that's possible.
Could I make a comment? So each of these parks here, we've spoken to the park operators within the last 2 weeks.
Yep.
In the process of assessing this petition. The feedback we've had is that consistent from all of them is none of them will admit to having turned caravanners away. What they do say is that at very busy times, they do potentially have a queue there, or they ask people to park their caravans, particularly caravans with a removable cassette. They'll ask them to park at a distance and wheel their cassettes. So we've had no direct evidence at the moment that they're turning people away, but certainly we can continue that conversation with the caravan parks.
And to your knowledge, the Big Four Porpunka one, where you've got public planned, is that right, or guests and public planned? Which is planned?
Planned for construction this year, so they're building a new dump point this year.
Fine, and I'm assuming because it's in Porpunka, it's on the flat somewhere, it's probably quite accessible. You don't know?
It's on the Great Alpine Road as you head out.
No.
Sorry?
Within the park.
Oh, within the park. No, I don't know, to be honest.
That would become a planning issue. Is that right?
I'd have to check, I don't know.
I would think that it probably would be, and whether or not. So therefore, we could actually, if it is, then it may be a situation where we could actually put the plan in there. Sorry,
I've been in there. I think it's workable.
Excellent, thank you. All right, that's my only question. Whether we can do anything about. Yeah. I see you've done it over the last 2 weeks anyway. Thank you.
No, okay. Any further comment? Councillor Roper, do you want to write a reply to anything?
I think we've
done it all?
Mr Mayor, is
Okay.
anyone allowed to write a question to come back on?
No. No. No.
The one that you're talking
No.
about put in at Porpunka,
No.
is that my understanding right, that there will be
I think that's something that we can discuss to clarify that with you at another time.
Okay, can I just make sure that it's at ground level?
The officers will discuss that with you.
Okay,
We're
thank
just
you.
at a point of taking a vote on the matter.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. We'll take it to the vote. All those in favour of the recommendation as on the board? Carried. Unanimous. Okay. Oh, there was an against?
I'm not sure that, to me, guarantees everything that I'd like to be guaranteeing.
So your vote is against? Thank you. Councillor Pearce against. I'd just like a comment, Ms Huggins, that I have personally visited the Myrtleford one after I spoke to you, and it does meet the recommendations that you seek at this point in time, and then they will upgrade that again at a later time. So the access, the height above the ground, the tap, the water and all that there, I believe it'll easily take your vehicle and similar type vehicles. Item 8.3.1, the draft 2018-19 budget report. Ms Cook. Or is it, sorry, it's
I believe
Mr.
I'm handing over to the CEO.
CEO. That's an important item for the CEO.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This report refers to the draft budget for 2018-19. It's been prepared based on ongoing community consultation. It's in line with the vision for the Council Plan of 2017-2021, and it continues on our commitment to keep operational spend low while directing funds to community services and capital works that support and build community safety, wellbeing, attracts visitors and investment, and boosts the local economy. The key features of the budget, of the draft budget, is a rate increase of 2.25%, which is in line with the Victorian Government's Fair Go rate system, an alignment of the Dinner Plain special rate to the differential rate strategy across the rest of the Shire, so that only the Dinner Plain commercial and industrial rate payers pay the special rate. Continuing our strong capital works program, our second highest on record being $11.2 million, a proposed trial for a free green waste disposal on selected weekends, and our continuation of prudent cost management principles, our flat staffing and ongoing wage freeze as discussed earlier in the meeting. Another feature is our reduction in materials and services cost. So in summary, we continue to maintain a strong, responsible approach to our financial resource while delivering our projects and services for our community. So it's recommended that that Council adopt the recommendations as read on the screen.
I move that.
Councillor Roper, Councillor Nicholas and Councillor Roper.
As usual, I'd like to commend the staff on their hard work behind everything they do, but particularly this, and very thorough. In my mind, we need to keep our eyes on cash flow, staffing, budget and materials and services, and that's obviously what the staff are doing, our officers who prepare the budget. And well done, thank you.
Councillor Roper?
I echo Councillor Nichols' comments.
Thank you. Any further comment? Councillor Keeble?
Just like to remind everyone, getting the budget out every year and in a manner that helps us in our Shire over the next 10 to 20 years. It's really important. And there's a section there for the community to have input, and I urge them to do that. Submissions are closed on the 9th of May at 3 o'clock. And it's important that the community does ask those questions. Trish asked some questions earlier today, which if the community don't ask questions on the budget, then you don't understand how that works. So it's really important to ask those questions. So I would encourage the ratepayers out there to ask questions on it. Have a look at it. Thank you.
Thank you. Any further comment? Councillor Nicholas, nothing further? No?
Voting.
Okay. All those in favour? Carried. The item 8.3.2, the Dinner Plain special rate, public notice of proposed declaration.
Thank you, Mr.
Ms.
Mayor.
Cook.
This report deals with the proposal to declare a special rate for the Dinner Plain Village. Council may declare a special rate for the purpose of defraying expenses that are considered to be of special benefit to the persons required to pay that special rate. Dinner Plain Village has for some time been subject to a special rate. In the past, the special rate applied to both commercial and residential properties. The proposal this year is to align the rating strategy across the Shire with Dinner Plain, and so much as the Dinner Plain special rate would be declared to be at the same quantum as the commercial industrial differential rate across the rest of the Shire at 43%, and it would only apply to commercial properties within Dinner Plain, which would align the two rating strategies. The total cost of the performance of the additional functions in Dinner Plain is estimated to be $550,000 over the course of a year, and it is proposed that this special rate, that the levy under this special rate would raise $201,000 over the course of a year, with the shortfall in the amount raised and the amount spent to be coming out of the dinner plane reserve in the short term. This proposal would go into public notice under Section 223 public notice requirements. Timing would be aligned with the timing on the draft budget proposal as well, with a committee to be formed to hear any submissions.
Councillor Roper, thank you.
Second.
Councillor Nicholas. Councillor Roper, anything?
Good news story for dinner plane. They've been baying that they're baying loudly in the hills that they're different and treated differently to everyone else. This is about trying to bring them into line with everyone else, and also trying to reduce, at the same time, trying to reduce the dinner plane reserve, which has come to light is a little bit of an issue. And we're trying our best to bring them into line and reduce that special reserve, and this is a process about doing that.
Thank you, Councillor Nicholas.
Nothing more to add.
Okay, any further comment? Take it to the vote. All those in favour? Carried. Item 8.3.3, the Finance Report Quarterly Review.
So moved.
Councillor Forsyth.
Second.
Got it right that time. Councillor Nicholas. Councillor Forsyth.
I know, just to say that this is relating back to the period ending 31st of December, and since then we've actually put together a budget which I think is probably more interesting reading than going back over this one, so just a recommendation.
Okay, any further comment? None, we'll just take to the vote then. All those in favour? Clear, carried. Uh, 8.3.4 Alpine Shire Council Plan 2017-21 Review. 2018 Council. Ms Cook.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. An annual review of our council plan is a requirement of the Local Government Act 1989. This report provides an outline of the review process that's been undertaken and the recommendation that council note that we are not recommending changes to the council plan at this time. The review proposes the following change, that is the strategic resource plan is updated to reflect the long-term financial plan as it will be reflected in 2018-19 budget document when it is adopted in June 2018. No other changes are currently proposed to this document.
So moved.
Councillor Roper.
Second.
Councillor Pearce. Councillor Roper.
As outlined by Ms Cook, there's note and we'll watch this space.
Okay, Councillor Pearce. Very good. Any further comment? I'll take the vote. All those in favour? Clear. Carried. Eight 8.3.5 Audit Committee meeting.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. The purpose of this report is to present the minutes and recommendations of the Audit Committee, which was held on the 23rd of February 2018. If the recommendation that Council receive and note the minutes and adopt the confidential health and safety report as well.
Councillor Pearce. Seconder. Councillor Knapstein. Thank you. Councillor Pearce. No comment. Councillor Knapstein. Nothing. Any further comment? None. Take to the vote. All those in favour? Clear. Carried. Uh, 8.3.6 Appointment of Independent Audit Committee members. Ms Cook.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Excuse me. The Audit Committee currently has 3 vacancies for independent members. We have been undertaking a recruitment process to fill these 3 vacancies, and we are now recommending the appointment of 3 independent members to our Audit Committee for a 3-year term. We are recommending that Mark Anderson, Sue LaBiche and Jared Moore are appointed to the Audit Committee for a term of 3 years, commencing from the 1st of May 2018. We would also like to recommend to acknowledge and thank Jane Shepherd, who is our retiring member of our Audit Committee, for her service on the Audit Committee.
Councillor Pearce. Councillor Forsyth. Councillor Pearce.
I'd just say that, you know, that looks like three great candidates coming forward, and thanks for Jane Shepherd on her retirement as well. Thank you.
Councillor Forsyth.
Ditto.
Okay, any further comment?
Yes.
Oh, Councillor Nicholas, sorry.
Just wanted to make a comment. Councillor Napstein and I are the two councillor representatives on the Audit Committee, and one of the new appointees is new to the Audit Committee, and I think that'll be good. That's all. It's always good to have a bit of change.
Yeah. Any further comments? No? Take it to the vote. All those in favour? Okay. Carried. Just a point on that one. I sat on the interviews for those members, and there was a very strong field to pick from, and I'd also like to thank all those people who did actually apply for that position. I think we've got a real strength of knowledge in that committee. 8.3.7, the renaming of a road off Feathertop Track in Harriettville. Who's doing that one?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Ms. Cook again. Okay.
The purpose of this report is to seek council approval for a road name change in Harriettville. The subject road is currently known as Off Feathertop Track. The request is to rename the road Walsh Lane and is supported by evidence the name can be linked to the area. Specifically, the name Walsh is one of the first recorded owners of the land, being a Mrs. Catherine Walsh, and it's also part of the Anzac Centenary Road naming project. It's proposed to honour William Walsh, who was an Anzac that served in France during World War I, who came from the Harriettville area. So we are requesting an approval of the change of the road name and to endorse the registration of the new name Walsh Lane.
Thank you. Move in a second, please. Councillor Napstein, Councillor Pearce. Councillor Napstein?
I think it just fulfils all the requirements for the name change and is recommended. Nothing more.
Okay, Councillor Pearce?
Yeah, I agree with Kitty, and on top of that, off Feathertop Track, could be off Feathertop Track and so on, and to match up with a genuine family from the district up that way, I think it's all tidy.
Thank you. Any further comment? Now I'll take to the vote. All those in favour? Councillor Roper? Yep. No. Thank you. Not? No. Thank you. The motion's carried. Item 8.3.8, airport service lease for hangars at Mount Beauty Aerodrome.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This report relates to the leasing of land at the Mount Beauty Aerodrome for the purpose of erecting hangars. Section 190 of the Local Government Act notes that there's a restriction on council's power to lease land. Under Section 190, if a lease is greater than 10 years, a person has a right under Section 223 of the Act to make a submission on the proposed lease. Currently, council has 5 parties requesting to enter into hangar leases at Mount Beauty Aerodrome, and is recommended the council approves Section 223 invitation for submissions against proposed leases on the land defined in this report until the land allotted for hangars is fully let.
Yeah, move in a second, please. Councillor Nicholas.
I'll second.
Councillor Pearce. Councillor Nicholas.
Mount Beauty Aerodrome is a place that we are focusing on for development, and it's just bureaucratic, the sounds of things at this point in time.
Councillor Pearce.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, well, we've been supporting this move to the airport of Mount Beauty for a number of years now, and it's all of good intention, and exciting, especially if you're in the aviation world, to have a lovely wide valley with a lovely airport that's been well supported over the years, I think. And I liken it sort of to Shute Harbour, which did this a number of years ago, and it's all fitted in well and it's a beautiful setup. So if we get anything near like that, I think we're going okay.
Good. Any further comment?
Oh, I'm just interested in how he determined $5.91 a metre squared as the lease charge.
That was determined at the time of the original agreement being put in place for the development of the Mount Beauty Aerodrome. It simply has a CPI increase calculated into the documentation.
You got a better idea, Pete?
So what's the current CPI? What's the current rate?
That's the current rate.
The current rate is $5.
Yep, that's after the CPI increases have been applied.
Right.
Kev, any further comment? No, take it to the vote. All those in favour? Carried. Item 8.3.9, invitation for tender, proposed long-term lease for the management and operation of the Myrtleford Holiday Park. Is that you again, Ms. Cook?
It is, Mr Mayor. This report details the proposal to place a public notice on awarding a new long-term lease for the management and operation of the Myrtleford Holiday Park.
So moved.
Councillor Roper.
Second.
Councillor Forsyth. Testing the YouTube.
Fourth.
As we're placing it on, as we're placing it, placing public notice of proposal to lease, if the community has any comment about this, we'll soon hear about it.
Indeed. Councillor Forsyth.
The Myrtleford Holiday Park has been under the spotlight a little bit for probably about 18 months, I suppose, with the previous managers, and now especially with a 6-month under professional management structure. And as I think Councillor Janus said earlier, that the caravan park in Myrtleford was absolutely chock-a-block over the Easter weekend, and a little walk around the park and talking to people, most of them are booking in again for next year. So it's really taking off. And I think from a council point of view, it makes perfect sense to actually let this to a commercial operator. And I think that they can just do more and better things with it, especially when we've seen what these professional managers have been doing. And I don't think running caravan parks is actually council core business. Thanks.
Thank you. Any further comment? Take it.
Yeah, one minor comment,
yes.
Mr Mayor. Totally agreeing with my colleague, and the proof's in the pudding of Bright Park and what happened there since we passed it on to people that are experienced and in the know of how to run a caravan park.
Councillor Knapstein.
Smoothly said. That covers it.
Okay. Any further comment? None. Take it to the vote. All those in favour? Carried. Item 9, Assembly of Councillors. I think just as read, I think. Councillor Nicholas, seconder. Councillor Knapstein. Any comments? All those in favour? Carried. General business from my left, Councillor Forsyth.
Just one congratulations that I forgot earlier in the night, and that is I'd like to congratulate all of those the tradies that were involved in getting the roundabout in Myrtleford up and running before Easter. I think it was a great job.
Yeah.
Yep. Councillor Pearce? Arthur? Councillor Nicholas?
No.
Councillor Keeble?
Other than it's good to be back. Had a great break with the family. Thanks to my fellow councillors, CEO and respective directors for filling in any of the work I may have missed out. Thank you.
Councillor Roper?
Oh yes, there has been some comment as to when the Mount Beauty transfer station will be open for business on a Thursday for the residents of the Killua Valley.
We're still on track for the end of April.
Could we put something on our Facebook site that says same?
Of course. Yep.
Thank you very much. Yes, even in Beaver, put a sign up at the transfer station.
Yep.
As well.
Councillor Knapstein?
We've had a couple of really busy weekends, and I think the town's sort of done really well with that. I think we've been blessed with good weather, and a special thank you, Tony, you would understand, with the brighter days, the volunteers that put in their time and effort to help make that such a good success and to raise some funds. So it's a big thank you to everybody for that.
Yep.
I have one further, Mr Mayor.
Yes, Mr Roper.
I notice around town the planned burn signs are up already, expect smoke. Have we been given a definitive timetable as to when the burning's going to begin?
No. I get it daily. I get an update daily. There's nothing in Village tomorrow.
No. What I'm wanting to know is from Parks or the Department of Wombats and Flowers, or they are today, is when they're actually going to start.
Thank you. Hang on.
I'll do my best to answer that one, Councillor Roper. So you can sign up to receive notifications on your location about where the burns will be. I appreciate the challenges that they must have coming from a farming background, as such as yourself, the challenge they have to deal with the environment and not knowing when the rain will start and when it can be safe to burn. So I think it's challenging to deal with that uncertainty and then communicate with certainty to stakeholders. So I suggest the best thing for all of our community is to if they're interested in when those burns will be, to log on and register, and so you receive those notifications.
Yep.
That wasn't the proactive answer I was looking for. What I would like to know, and this is a community-wide thing, we have this wonderful thing where we communicate or disseminate information out to the community, is that we actually contact someone in the business of starting fires and have them communicate with us when they think they possibly are going to start, and then we can further communicate that.
We can definitely make contact with Forest Fire Services, Forest Fire Management I think they're called, and find information passed on to our community.
I know what the answer is, but we're not being proactive about telling everyone else in the community what it is. That's what I'm getting at.
We've done our business, is it?
Well, it is. The tourism is a major part of our business, and you know, if we're going to have smoke here, we need to know when the smoke's going to be, and we need to inform the visitors of Council Shire when it's happening.
I reckon because one of our clients is a farmer, he can notify us, and then they put it up.
Go on.
I think it may also be on your CFA app, and a lot of people use that.
At the risk of carrying on the meeting until 9:10 p.m. tonight, the challenge that we face when we pass on information second hand is if that changes and then we don't pass the information on to the community, then we get a lot of critical feedback.
I think we could leave it to the specialists.
No. The point I'm trying to make here also is if we're going to have a communication line with somebody that's doing something on a landscape sale, it's up to us to make sure that we actually can and do have a proper understanding of what they're actually doing.
Can I make one comment on that? And that is, in Western Australia, as soon as they see a shark in the water, nobody goes to that place. So if we start putting out there that there's going to be smoke from here to next week, the tourist trade might not come. I mean, there's still plenty to see, even with there's a bit of smoke about. And it's going to blow away anyway. Not like Beijing.
My understanding of the Alpine Shire website is that we do put current information, as current as we have, on that website to say if there is going to be a burn in our region. The DELWIP people or the Forest Fire Management people have put out a timetable as to when they anticipate there will be burns, but due to weather conditions, as we know, that could change. So we've gone now through another dry spell. We had rain, it got wet. Anyway, I think we spent enough time on this one, Councillor Roper. I think people, if they really want to know, will just go to the website.
Can I just make one more comment?
Oh, all right.
Sorry. A number of years ago, there was major complaint about smoke over holiday times, and I understand that the Department of ELWP have responded to that, and so that over Easter they don't burn around here, but that would need to be confirmed.
Yeah, that we haven't had. We've had a blessed season this Easter with no smoke in the air. Item 11. Motions for which notice has previously been given. There are nil. Reception and reading of petitions. There are nil presented. Item 13. Councillor Pearce, documents for sealing. Seconded. Councillor Keeble. All those in favour? Yep. Carried. There being no further business, declare the meeting closed at 8:13 p.m. Thank you. Thank you for people who have travelled the distance. Safe trip home. And our next meeting is in Mount Beauty in May. So we look forward to being hosted in the Kiewa Valley, and it'll save you some mileage.
Travel, that's right, yeah.